Welcome everyone to the next episode of the video series about Regulation 561. We left off at Article 12 and we had cut that article in half. Previously, we discussed the exceptions when and under what conditions we can deviate from the rules defined here. In this video, we will go into detail about the so-called extra 1 hour or 2 hours of driving to get home provision. That's how this part of the regulation has become known, and we will be discussing the exact details, how and when it can be used, what can be stretched and for how long, essentially which rules can be banned and to what extent. So let's dive in. We are working with a split screen again, meaning the regulation is open in duplicate, so I can clearly show which specific rules the second part of Article 12 grants exceptions from. It starts by stating, provided that road safety is not thereby jeopardized in exceptional circumstances, the driver may also depart from article, and that's where the list begins. Let's look at what's written here. First, from Article 6, paragraphs 1 and 2. Article 6 defines the daily driving limit, primarily the 9-hour rule, which we have already discussed. It also allows extending this to 10 hours twice per week. So paragraph 1 can be broken, that is the 9-hour rule, and the 10-hour rule as well. Then comes paragraph 2, which sets the weekly driving limit at 56 hours. This can also be exceeded under this provision. However, and I want to highlight this, the 90-hour limit over 2 consecutive weeks may not be exceeded. So paragraph 3 is not listed here. The 90-hour rule is carved in stone. This exception does not permit violating that rule. It then moves on Article 8, paragraph 2. This concerns daily rest periods. After a daily or weekly rest period, the driver must take another daily rest within 24 hours. And within that 24-hour period, the rest must be either 9 or 11 hours, as we have already learned. Now you can deviate from this too. If you are driving an extra hour or 2, and perhaps also taking the mandatory 30-minute break required for the 2-hour extension, that will definitely no longer fit within the 24-hour window, especially on an extended shift. So this isn't just about exceeding driving time, you will also be breaching the daily rest requirement. And this exception covers that as well. It lists these specific articles and paragraphs. And here is why. By exceeding the daily and weekly driving time by up to 1 hour in order to reach the employer's operational center or the driver's place of residence to take a weekly rest period. At this point, we are still in version 1 when the driver exceeds the driving time by maximum 1 hour to get to either the company's operational center or their home to take a weekly rest. It doesn't specify whether the weekly rest must be reduced or regular, so it can be either 24 or 45 hours. Now comes version 2. It states that under the same conditions, the same rules may be deviated from. The driver may exceed the daily and weekly driving time by up to 2 hours, provided that the driver has taken a continuous 30-minute break immediately before the extended driving period in order to reach either the employer's operational center or their home to take a regular weekly rest period. So it's very important, if you need more than 1 hour to reach either the company's operational center or your residence, then you must follow these extra conditions. In this case, you can only exceed your driving time by up to 2 hours, but only after you have taken a 30-minute uninterrupted break before starting that extended driving period. We will look at examples shortly to illustrate this, but be very careful. If someone has already driven 4.5 hours and then wants to exceed their driving time, they cannot continue driving beyond 4.5 hours without a break. This exception does not permit exceeding the 4.5 hour continuous driving limit. That remains unchanged. So if you have driven 4.5 hours, you must take a 45-minute break before continuing. We will cover specific examples of this in the explanatory document shortly. Let's just finish the rest of Article 12. It states that the driver must record the reason for such a deviation manually on the tachograph's recording sheet, the printout from the tachograph, or on the duty sheet, at the latest upon arrival at the destination or a suitable stopping place. So, as mentioned at the beginning of Article 12, provided that road safety is not endangered and to allow the vehicle to reach a suitable stopping point, there must be a reason for this extension. What happened? Why are you extending your driving time, be it daily or weekly? It's spelled out clearly. You must indicate the reason. Of course, one could write anything, but this is the proper way. Print it and write down what happened. And don't forget, this extra time must be compensated. I don't think that's a big deal since we are only talking about 1 or 2 hours. It's quite easy to make up, but the regulation clearly states that this extended driving time must be compensated with an equivalent rest period taken before the end of the 3rd week following the deviation, combined with any other rest period. In plain terms, if you exceeded your driving time by, let's say, 1.5 hours, then just like with reduced weekly rest, you have to make up for that time. You must add that 1.5 hours to another rest period. It can be a daily or weekly rest, either reduced or regular. So again, it can be added to a 9, 11, 24 or 45-hour rest. It just needs to be done somewhere. And again, I think it's very easy to do. Adding 1 hour or 2 to an existing rest period is really not hard. That's all for the regulation part. Now let's jump over briefly to the explanatory section. I often mention the Trace 2 document, which is the official explanatory guide to Regulation 561. And here we are. So let's see the first one. Let's say you have the maximum daily driving time limit is 9 hours at this example, and you need a derogation. You can see that here. The derogation, it can be maximum 1 or 2 hours. And let's see what happened here. Okay, this driver just drove 4.5 hours. Then he took a 45-minute break. That's good. And he drove another 4.5 hour break. As I mentioned before, even you need a derogation, so you need to drive on, you need to continuing, but because your driving period is over, you need to take a 45 minutes break. No matter what, you need this if you want to use this derogation and if you want to keep driving. So that means it doesn't really matter you want to drive 1 or 2 hours, because you will have the 30 minutes break anyway. Because if you want to use more than 1 hour driving time, extra driving time, you need, as I mentioned before, you need 30 minutes break immediately before this derogation. But because you took a 45 minutes break here anyway, the 30 minutes is just done and you just keep it legal. So this is one example. Let's see the second one. You have daily driving time and the limit is 9 hours again. Okay, what happened here? The driver just drove 4.5 hours and then he just took a 45 minutes break here. That's good. But after the break, he just drove 4 hours and then he just took a 15 minutes break first, and then he just finished his driving period. You can see that 30 minutes driving here, and after this he just took a 30 minutes break. Why is it good? Because actually he made a so-called split break here, 15 minutes and 30 minutes, which is really smart, because he just finished his 45 minutes, but in this way he just already done the mandatory 30 minutes break if he wants to drive more than 1 hour, if he wants to use a longer derogation than 1 hour. Okay, and the last one, let's see what about if you have 10 hours as daily driving limit. Okay, you can make a derogation here too, no problem. What did this driver? He just drove 4.5 hours and then a 45 minutes break. That's good. And again, he just drove another 4.5 hours and then he just had to do a 45 minutes break again, because he just made an extra 1 hour driving time. This is the story when you want to use your 10 hours limit. Okay, and the 10 hours just finished here because this driver just made already a 45 minutes break. He has the chance to drive, keep driving here, but if he wants to use a longer derogation than 1 hour, he has to take a 30 minutes break here. So if you want to drive more than 1 hour here, then you need a 30 minutes break here before the derogation, before you start the derogation. And that was the last one. But look, if you have a special request or a special situation and you really don't know what to do, you have the comment section, so you can leave a comment. And that's it for now. That's it for today, guys. And be very smart when you want to use this derogation, otherwise you can get into a big trouble. If you like the video, just share it. Maybe it's useful for other drivers too. If you don't want to miss videos like that, please subscribe and see you in the next video. Bye.